The chamber was silent except for the soft hum of the translation devices. Ambassador Jinho sat perfectly still in his seat, watching the holographic display at the center of the Galactic Council Hall. Around him, representatives from 43 different species waited for the Oracle to speak. The Oracle was old, older than most civilizations in the galaxy. It was an artificial intelligence built by a species that no longer existed, left behind as their final gift to the universe. For 3,000 years it had predicted cosmic events, warned of dangers, and guided the Council through impossible decisions. It had never been wrong, not once. Today, the Oracle had called an emergency session. That alone was enough to make Jinho nervous. The hologram flickered and changed. A planet appeared, rotating slowly. It looked beautiful from space, with swirling white clouds and patches of blue and green. But the data scrolling beside it told a different story. High Arbiter Velxus spoke first. The Threne leader's crystalline body reflected light across the chamber as he gestured toward the display. "Quarantine Zone Epsilon 7, he said, his voice like grinding stones. "For 3 centuries we have monitored this world from a safe distance. The Oracle declared it a death world of the highest classification. No mission has ever been authorized to approach it." Jinho studied the data. The planet's surface temperature ranged from -120 degrees to +80 degrees Celsius. Storms of sulfuric acid swept across continents regularly. The gravity was nearly twice what most species considered comfortable. Radiation from the system's star bombarded the surface constantly. Earthquakes and volcanic eruptions happened daily. It was by any measure a nightmare world. "So why are we here?" asked the VIX representative, her sensory tendrils twitching with impatience. The Oracle's voice filled the chamber. It sounded like music and mathematics combined, translated into something organic minds could understand. "There has been a change," it said. "I have detected structures on the surface. Artificial constructs, signs of organized civilization." The chamber erupted. Representatives shouted over each other in dozens of languages. The translation devices struggled to keep up. Jinho remained quiet, listening. Velxus raised a manipulator for silence. "This is impossible." The Oracle itself calculated that no complex life could survive on that world for more than 3 standard generations. The environment would destroy any biological population through accumulated genetic damage, resource depletion, or simple environmental catastrophe. "I am aware of my previous calculations," the Oracle replied. "They remain accurate according to all known parameters. Yet the evidence is clear. Structures exist. Power generation has been detected. Agricultural patterns are visible from orbit. There are millions of life signs." Jinho leaned forward. "What kind of life signs?" "That is the anomaly, Ambassador. The biological signatures are consistent with carbon-based bilateral organisms, similar to your own species, in fact. Similar to humans." The chamber went silent again. All eyes turned to Jinho. He kept his expression neutral. "Are you suggesting humans are on that world?" "I am suggesting nothing. I am stating observed data. The life signs match human parameters within acceptable variance. However, this creates a logical impossibility. Earth has no record of any colony mission to that sector. The distance from Earth is significant. The world has been under quarantine monitoring for 3 centuries, predating human spaceflight capability." Jinho felt his heart racing but kept his voice steady. Then perhaps the Oracle made an error in its original assessment. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. The Oracle did not make errors. Everyone knew this. "My calculations were based on known biological tolerances and environmental factors," the Oracle said. "If life exists on that world, then either my understanding of biological limits is incomplete, or an unknown factor is present that I cannot measure." The Quillian combat coordinator spoke up, his voice sharp. "Or this is an invasion. An unknown hostile force has occupied a world we believed uninhabitable. They hide there, using the environment as a shield while they build forces to strike at the Council." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Jinho saw the fear spreading. These were species that had known peace for centuries, protected by the Council and guided by the Oracle. The idea of an unknown enemy frightened them more than any harsh planet. "I request permission for Earth to investigate," Jinho said clearly. Velxus turned his crystalline eyes toward the human. "Why should humanity be granted this mission?" "Because Earth's deep space scouts were conducting a survey of that sector when they detected the anomaly. We reported it to the Council immediately as protocol requires. Our ship, the Horizon's Edge, is already in the region. Captain Doyen and his crew are prepared to investigate. Prepared to investigate, the Quillian repeated. Or prepared to make contact with your hidden colony. Jinho met his gaze. If humans are on that world, we have no knowledge of how they arrived there. But if they are human, they deserve to be contacted by their own kind first. Would you not wish the same courtesy? Several representatives nodded. The logic was sound, even if trust remained low. Humanity was still new to the Galactic Council, having joined only 80 years ago. They were young and reckless by galactic standards. They took risks that made other species nervous. Velxus deliberated for a long moment. The Council will vote. But know this, Ambassador Jinho. If this proves to be some human scheme, Earth's membership will be reconsidered. Are we clear? Perfectly clear, Jinho replied. The vote took an hour. In the end, the Council approved the mission by a narrow margin. Earth would be allowed to send an investigation team to Quarantine Zone Epsilon 7, but they would not go alone. A multi-species observation team would accompany them. Everything would be monitored. Everything would be recorded. After the session ended, Jinho made his way to the communication center. He sent an encrypted message to the Horizon's Edge, knowing Captain Doyen would receive it within minutes. Mission approved. Proceed to Epsilon 7. Exercise extreme caution. Whatever is down there, it survived 3 centuries on a world the Oracle said would kill anything that landed. That makes them either incredibly lucky or incredibly dangerous. Perhaps both. Find out which, and Doyen, if they are human, find out how they got there. We need answers. Jinho stood at the window looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, on a world that should be dead, something was alive. Something was building. Something was thriving. If they were human, as the Oracle suggested, then humanity had just become far more complicated than anyone realized. A lost colony, surviving the impossible, unknown to Earth and the Council both. He thought about what that meant. A human population that had endured centuries on a death world, isolated and alone, facing challenges that would destroy most civilizations. What would that do to a people? What would they become? Dr. Mireille appeared beside him. The xenobiologist had been observing the council session from the visitors' gallery. You know what this means, don't you? She asked. Tell me, Jinho said. If humans are surviving on that world, they're not the same humans who left Earth. If they ever did leave Earth, generations of exposure to that environment would change them. Evolutionarily, culturally, they'll be adapted to conditions we can't imagine. They'll have developed technologies, survival methods, ways of thinking that we've never needed. That worries you? Mireille shook her head. It fascinates me, and it should terrify the Council. Because if humans can survive there, what does that say about our limits? What does that say about what we're capable of? Jinho smiled slightly. Maybe that's exactly what the galaxy needs to learn. Far away, the Horizon's Edge received its orders and adjusted course. Captain Doyen gathered his crew and briefed them on the mission. In the cargo bay, they loaded equipment designed for the harshest environments known to science. On the surface of Epsilon 7, in a settlement built from reinforced metal and necessity, a woman named Nari stood on a watchtower and looked up at the stars. She did not know that ships were coming. She did not know that the galaxy had finally noticed her world. She only knew that tomorrow, like every day, her people would wake up, put on their protective gear, and go about the work of surviving. They would maintain the walls, tend the crops in their sealed greenhouses, and teach their children how to live on a world that wanted them dead. They had done it for 300 generations. They would do it for 300 more if necessary. The Oracle had said no creature survives that world. The Oracle had never met the people of Degeo. The Horizon's Edge dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Captain Doyen stood on the bridge, studying the planet on the main screen. From here it looked almost peaceful. Sensor report, he ordered. Lieutenant Yunwu worked his console, his face illuminated by the display, confirming the Oracle's data, Captain. Multiple population centers across 3 continents. Estimated population in the millions. Power generation detected. Agricultural zones. Transportation networks. Sir, this is a fully functioning civilization. Dr. Mireille moved closer to the screen. She had spent the entire journey studying every piece of data they had on the planet. It still did not make sense. What about the environment? Hostile as predicted, Yunwu replied. Current surface temperature at the largest settlement is negative 47 degrees Celsius. There's a sulfur storm moving across the northern continent. Seismic activity detected in 12 locations. Radiation levels are high but not immediately lethal with proper shielding. The Threen engineer on the observation team made a grinding sound that the translator rendered as disbelief. Impossible. My people require temperatures between 20 and 30 degrees to function optimally. How does anything survive negative 47? Let's find out, Doyen said. Hyunwoo, find us a landing site. Somewhere remote. I don't want to land in the middle of their capital and start a panic. The ship descended through the atmosphere. The ride was rough. The planet's weather systems were chaotic and turbulence shook the vessel constantly. When they finally broke through the cloud layer, Mireille gasped. Below them stretched a landscape of gray stone and ice. Mountains rose in jagged peaks. Between them she could see settlements. Buildings made of dark metal clustered together like organisms seeking warmth. Roads connected them, carved through the rock. And everywhere she saw movement. Vehicles. People. Life. They landed in a valley 20 kilometers from the nearest settlement. The observation team gathered in the airlock, checking their environmental suits. The suits were rated for extreme conditions, but everyone was nervous. Remember, Doyun said, we're here to make peaceful contact. No weapons visible. Let them see we mean no harm. Hyunwoo adjusted his helmet. And if they're hostile? Then we retreat to the ship and reassess. But let's not assume hostility. If they've survived here, they've had more important things to worry about than building weapons. The airlock opened. Cold air rushed in despite the suit's insulation. The temperature reading on Mirai's heads-up display showed negative 38 degrees. She stepped onto the ramp and felt the gravity immediately. It was like wearing a heavy pack. Every movement required more effort. The landing had not gone unnoticed. Within an hour, they saw vehicles approaching across the valley floor. Rugged machines with reinforced frames and wide treads. They moved with purpose, Contact, Hyunwoo reported. Multiple vehicles. 6 in total. They're not approaching aggressively, but they're definitely coming to investigate. Doyen stood at the front of the group, making himself visible. He raised his hands in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. The vehicles stopped 50 meters away. Doors opened. Figures emerged, wearing suits similar to the away teams but more utilitarian, more worn. They had clearly been designed for function over form, repaired and modified countless times. One figure stepped forward. Through the faceplate, Mireille could see a woman's face, human, definitely human. The woman studied them for a long moment, then spoke. Her words came through the translation system as a mix of familiar and foreign sounds. You are not from here, the woman said. It was not a question. Doyen took a careful step forward. My name is Captain Doyen. We come from Earth. We mean you no harm. We detected your civilization and came to investigate. The woman tilted her head. Earth, we have stories of Earth, old stories from before the forgetting. You say you come from Earth? Yes, we represent the United Earth Government and the Galactic Council. May I ask your name? I am Nari. I lead the settlement of Ironhold. You should not be here without preparation. This world kills the unprepared. She looked at their suits. Your equipment is insufficient. A storm approaches. You will come with us or you will die when it arrives. Mireille checked her atmospheric readings. Nari was right. Pressure was dropping. Wind speed was increasing. Captain, she's not exaggerating. We need to either leave or find shelter. Doyen made a decision. We accept your hospitality, Nari, thank you. Nari made a gesture and her people returned to their vehicles. Follow us. Stay in your vehicles. Do not attempt to walk in the open. The wind alone can kill. The away team returned to their shuttle and followed the convoy. The storm hit before they reached the settlement. One moment, visibility was clear. The next, everything disappeared in a wall of white. Snow and ice battered the shuttle's hull. The wind howled. The temperature dropped to negative 60 degrees. Through the storm, Mireille could barely see the vehicles ahead. They moved steadily, confidently, as if they had done this 1,000 times before. They probably had Ironhold appeared through the storm like a fortress. Massive walls surrounded it, built from dark stone and reinforced metal. Gates opened and the convoy moved inside. The gates closed behind them, and suddenly they were in a protected area. The wind still howled above, but here, between the walls, it was calmer. Buildings rose around them, tall and narrow, built close together. Everything was designed to conserve heat and protect from the elements. People moved between structures using covered walkways. Children played in a protected courtyard, wearing lighter gear than the adults but still far more than what children on Earth would wear. They landed in a hangar built into the side of a cliff. As soon as the doors closed, Nari's people gestured for them to exit. "You may remove your suits here," Nari said, pulling off her own helmet. "This space is climate-controlled." "Barely. It is only -5 degrees." The Threen engineer made a distressed sound. For him, -5 was dangerously cold. One of Nari's people brought him a thermal blanket without being asked. Mirai removed her helmet and studied Nari properly for the first time. The woman was in her late 30s with weathered skin and sharp eyes. Her hair was cut short for practicality. She moved with the efficiency of someone who did not waste energy on unnecessary motions. "You have questions," Nari said. "Everyone does when they see Ironhold for the first time." "Many questions," Doyen agreed. "But first, thank you for bringing us to safety. We underestimated this world. Everyone does." Nari led them deeper into the settlement, through corridors carved from rock and lined with metal. "You said you come from Earth. We have not heard that name spoken aloud in many generations, only in the old stories." "What do your stories say?" Mirai asked. Nari stopped at a door and opened it, revealing a common room with heating units and simple furniture. "Sit, rest, I will have food brought. Then we will talk." They sat. Mirai noticed how everything in the room was built for durability. Nothing decorative. Nothing fragile. Every object had a purpose. Nari sat across from them. "Our stories say that long ago the architects brought our ancestors to this world. They were placed here and told to survive. The architects never explained why. They never returned. For 30 generations we struggled. Many died, but some lived, and their children lived, and their children. Until we learned how to live here." "You call this world Dejeo?" Doyen asked. "Yes, it means the forge, because this world hammers us like metal on an anvil. We either break or we become stronger." She studied them carefully. "You truly come from Earth? From the home world?" "Yes, Earth is part of a galactic community now. We've made contact with dozens of species. We have ships that travel between stars, and we never knew you existed until 3 days ago." An old man entered the room. He walked with a cane, but his eyes were alert. "Forgive my intrusion. I'm Elder Taman. I maintain our histories. When Nari told me visitors claimed to come from Earth, I had to see for myself." Mirai stood and bowed respectfully. "We have many questions about your history, Elder. How long have your people been here?" Taman sat slowly. "Our records go back approximately 8,000 years. Before that, there was the Forgetting, a time when knowledge was lost. We rebuilt from fragments. We do not know how our ancestors arrived here or why. We only know they survived when survival should have been impossible." 8,000 years, Hyunwoo repeated softly. "That predates Earth's spaceflight by millennia. How did humans get here?" "That," said a younger voice from the doorway, "is what we would like to know." A young man entered carrying a bag of tools. "I am Bongsu. I work with the engineering teams. Forgive my boldness, but we have waited our entire lives for this moment. Contact with others. Proof that we are not alone." He looked at them with wonder. "You have ships that travel between stars. You have visited other worlds. Tell us, please, is Earth as beautiful as the stories say?" Mirai smiled. "More beautiful, and we would love to show you when circumstances allow." Nari stood. "But first we must inform the central government. They will want to meet you. And you will want to see more of Dejeo, to understand how we live, to understand what we have become." Doyen nodded. "We would be honored. But I must ask, Nari, this world is extraordinarily hostile. How do you not only survive but thrive?" Nari walked to the window and looked out at the storm. "We thrive because we must. Because giving up means death. Because our children deserve a future. This world taught us to be strong, Captain. It taught us that nothing is impossible if you refuse to accept defeat." She turned back to them. "Welcome to Dejeo. Welcome to the world that should have killed us. Welcome home." Outside, the storm continued to rage, but inside Ironhold, in the warmth and safety carved from rock and will, 2 branches of humanity met for the first time in 8,000 years. Captain Doyen's report reached the Galactic Council 3 days later. He had sent detailed scans, biological samples, historical records, and dozens of hours of video documentation. The response was immediate and chaotic. The Oracle ran the data through its processors for 72 hours straight. When it finally spoke, its voice carried something that sounded almost like confusion. "The data is accurate," it announced to the assembled council. "The inhabitants of Quarantine Zone Epsilon 7 are human. Genetically, they are 99.7% identical to Earth humans. The differences are minor adaptations consistent with environmental pressure over multiple generations." High Arbiter Velxus leaned forward in his seat. "But your calculations stated that no complex life could survive there beyond 3 generations. These humans have survived for hundreds of generations." "How?" "That is the anomaly," the Oracle replied. "By every statistical model, the colony should have failed. Resource scarcity, accumulated genetic damage from radiation, environmental catastrophes, psychological stress. Any one of these factors should have been sufficient to cause collapse. Combined, they should have made failure certain within 50 years. Ambassador Jinho listened carefully. He had been reading Doyun's reports obsessively, trying to understand what his people had found. "What if your models were incomplete?" "Explain," the Oracle said. "You calculated based on physical survival. Food, water, shelter, radiation tolerance, but you did not calculate for human stubbornness, for the refusal to accept failure, for the ability to find purpose in suffering." The VIX representative made a dismissive gesture. "Purpose does not defeat physics, Ambassador. Willpower does not create food where none exists." "No," Jinho agreed, "but it makes you find ways to create food. It makes you build better shelters. It makes you teach your children that survival is worth fighting for." On Degeo, Dr. Mirai was conducting her research. She had been living in Ironhold for 2 weeks, studying everything she could about the population. What she found amazed her. She sat in Youngmi's medical facility reviewing genetic scans. Youngmi was Degeo's chief medical officer, a sharp woman in her 40s with an encyclopedic knowledge of human biology under extreme conditions. "Look at the bone density," Youngmi said, highlighting sections of the scan. "Compared to Earth humans, our bones are 30% denser. Our cardiovascular systems are more efficient. We process oxygen better. Our cellular repair mechanisms are accelerated." Mirai studied the data. "These are not learned behaviors. These are genetic adaptations. Yes, evolution in action. Each generation that survives passes on the traits that made survival possible. The weak die young. The strong have children. Over 8,000 years, the result is a population optimized for this environment. But genetic adaptation alone cannot explain everything," Mirai said. "Physical adaptation takes time. Your ancestors would have died before these traits could establish themselves." Youngmi smiled. "You are correct. Genetics is only part of the answer. Come, let me show you the rest." They walked through Ironhold streets. Even inside the walls, people wore protective clothing. Children as young as 5 wore insulated gear and carried emergency supplies. Everyone moved with purpose, wasting no energy. Youngmi pointed to a group of teenagers practicing in a training yard. They were working through scenarios: shelter collapse, exposure to toxic gas, equipment failure in extreme cold. They moved through each drill with serious focus. "We begin training at age 4, Youngmi explained. "Every child learns survival protocols before they learn to read. By 10, they can survive alone in the wilderness for 3 days. By 15, they can lead rescue operations. This is not genetics. This is culture." Mirai watched a young girl, no more than 7, efficiently assemble an emergency shelter while wearing thick gloves. "You have created a society where the environment is not your enemy but your teacher." "Exactly. We do not fight Dejo. We learn from it. Every storm teaches us about wind patterns. Every earthquake teaches us about structural engineering. Every death teaches us what not to do." Youngmi's voice was matter-of-fact, without sadness. "We have turned this world into the greatest school in the galaxy." Lieutenant Hyunwoo was having his own revelations. He had joined a Degeo security team on a routine patrol. Routine, he learned, was a relative term on this world. The team leader was a man named Kyung-ho, built like a rock and just as solid. He led 6 others through terrain that would be considered impassable on most worlds. Steep cliffs, ice fields, areas where volcanic vents release toxic gases. "Stay close," Kyung-ho warned. "If you fall behind, we cannot wait. The schedule is precise. We must reach checkpoint 7 before the pressure drop." "Pressure drop?" Hyunwoo asked. "The atmospheric pressure varies by location and time. In 2 hours, this valley will be unbreathable without supplemental oxygen. We need to be through before then." They moved fast. Hyunwoo struggled to keep pace despite his training. The gravity was exhausting. The cold sapped his strength. His environmental suit, state-of-the-art by Earth standards, felt inadequate compared to the worn but efficient gear the Daejeo team wore. Halfway through the patrol, disaster struck. A section of cliff gave way. One of Kyung-ho's team members fell, tumbling down the slope before catching himself on an outcropping. His leg was clearly broken. Kyung-ho did not hesitate. He rappelled down immediately, secured the injured man, and signaled for help. 2 others descended. They stabilized the leg using materials from their packs, then hauled the man up using a pulley system they assembled in minutes. "We continue," Kyung-ho said once the man was secured. "He can still move." "We all continue," Hyunwoo stared. "He needs medical attention." "He will receive it when we reach checkpoint 7. We are 1 hour away. If we stop here, we all die when the pressure drops." So we continue. The injured man pulled himself to his feet using his rifle as a crutch. He nodded to Kyung-ho. "I can make it," and he did. They all did. They reached checkpoint 7 with 15 minutes to spare. Only then did they stop to properly treat the injury. Only then did anyone show pain or fatigue. Hyunwoo reported the incident to Doyeon that evening. "Captain, these people are not just surviving. They operate at a level of discipline and capability that rivals our best military units, and this is normal for them. This is just a patrol." Back at the Galactic Council, the Oracle continued its analysis. It had created a new variable in its calculations, the human factor. But quantifying it proved difficult. "I do not understand," the Oracle admitted to a closed session of senior council members. "I have all the data. I can see what they have accomplished. But I cannot predict it. Every model I create based on known species behavior suggests the colony should fail. Yet it does not fail. It thrives." Velks has studied the data himself. What is different about humans? They seem to possess an ability to redefine what is possible. When faced with a barrier that should stop them, they do not turn back. They do not find an easier path. They break through the barrier and tell themselves it was not a barrier at all. They turn limitation into motivation. "That is irrational," the Quillian observer said. "Yes," the Oracle agreed. "It is completely irrational, and that appears to be humanity's greatest advantage. They do not accept rational limits." Professor Seungjae arrived from Earth with a team of anthropologists and psychologists. He had spent his career studying human cultures under stress. Daejeo was the ultimate case study. After a month of research, he presented his findings to Mirai and Doyeon. "The people of Daejeo have developed what I call adversity culture," he explained. "Most societies try to minimize hardship. They seek comfort, safety, predictability. Daejeo cannot offer these things, so instead, they have built a culture that values hardship. They see difficult conditions not as problems to be eliminated, but as opportunities for growth." "Like training," Mirai said. "Exactly like training. They practice controlled exposure to danger. Children are deliberately put in challenging situations to build resilience. Adults regularly test themselves against the environment. They have sayings, 'Soft hands build nothing.' Comfort is the enemy of capability. We are the children of the forge." Doyeon frowned. "That sounds harsh. Especially for children, it is harsh. Many would call it cruel by Earth standards. But it works. Their survival rate is actually higher than Earth's. Injuries that would disable an Earth human for weeks they recover from in days. Psychological trauma that would require years of therapy, they process and overcome, because they have been trained since birth to handle hardship." Mirai thought about what she had seen. The children drilling in the cold. The injured man continuing the patrol. Nari standing in the storm unbothered. They have turned their death world into their greatest advantage. Yes, and that terrifies the council. Seungjae pulled up reports from the council chambers. There are factions calling for restrictions on human expansion. They see Daejeo not as a miracle, but as a threat. If humans can thrive on a world like this, what does that say about human potential? What happens when humanity decides to expand into territories other species have abandoned as too difficult? They fear competition, Doyeon said. They fear obsolescence. The galaxy has been comfortable for a long time. Most species expanded to pleasant worlds, built stable civilizations, and stopped pushing boundaries. Humanity is only 80 years into galactic society, and we have already found a lost colony surviving the impossible. What will we do in another 80 years? Another 800? That evening, Mirai sat with Nari on the walls of Ironhold, watching the sun set through the toxic clouds. It created colors Earth never saw, purples and greens mixed with orange and red. Your people fear us, Nari said quietly. I can see it in the reports your captain sends. They think we are dangerous. Some do, Mirai admitted. They do not understand how you survive. It frightens them. Good, Nari said. Let them be frightened. We have been alone for 8,000 years. We have survived horrors they cannot imagine. If they fear us, perhaps they will think twice before they try to control us. Is that what you think will happen? Nari looked at her. I think the galaxy is about to learn something important. That humans do not need perfect worlds to thrive. We do not need comfort. We need purpose. We need challenge. Give us an impossible task and we will find a way. Tell us we cannot survive and we will prove you wrong. She smiled. The Oracle said no creature survives this world. The Oracle never asked if we wanted to survive. It only calculated whether we could. It forgot to account for the fact that sometimes the answer to "can you" is simply "watch me." The Oracle requested something it had never requested in 3,000 years. It asked for a direct meeting with Ambassador Jinho and the human research team. Not a formal council session. Not a recorded testimony. A conversation. They met in a neutral facility, a chamber designed for communication with artificial intelligence. The Oracle's presence filled the space not physically but as a sense of vast awareness watching everything. I do not understand humans, the Oracle began without preamble. This troubles me. I have analyzed 17,000 species across 2 million years of galactic history. I can predict behavior patterns, social development, technological advancement. But humans resist my models. Specifically, the humans of Degeo resist all prediction. Administrator Jiwon, Earth's liaison to advanced artificial intelligence, spoke carefully. Can you explain what you mean? I will try. The Oracle paused, an unusual behavior for an entity that processed information at quantum speeds. I calculated survival probability for Degeo based on environmental factors, resource availability, and biological limitations. The result was 0.03% probability of colony survival beyond 3 generations. This is not a small error. This is my model being completely wrong. Jinho leaned forward. What did your model not account for? Choice. Specifically, the human capacity to choose suffering when avoiding suffering would be rational. Every other species I have studied seeks to minimize discomfort. When environment exceeds tolerance, they modify the environment or leave. Humans on Degeo did neither. They chose to stay. They chose to endure. They chose to teach their children to endure. This makes no logical sense. Dr. Mirai, joining via communication link from Degeo, responded. It makes perfect sense if you understand human psychology. We find meaning in struggle. We define ourselves by what we overcome. A human who accomplishes something easy feels less fulfilled than a human who accomplishes something difficult. But the difficulty of survival on Degeo exceeds reasonable challenge. It approaches guaranteed failure. Yes, Mirai agreed. And that is exactly what made them try harder. You see guaranteed failure? They saw the ultimate challenge. The ultimate way to prove human capability. The Oracle was silent for a long moment. When it spoke again, its voice carried something new. If an AI could sound frustrated, it did now. I have reviewed historical records of 17 species that attempted to colonize harsh worlds. All failed within expected parameters. The VIX attempted a colony on a high-radiation world. Population declined due to genetic damage. They evacuated after 40 years. The Threen attempted a world with extreme temperature variation. Infrastructure could not adapt. They abandoned it after 30 years. The pattern is consistent. When conditions exceed tolerance, rational beings withdraw. Rational beings, yes, Jiwon said quietly. But humans are not always rational. This is my conclusion as well. Humans operate on principles I cannot quantify. Hope, stubbornness, pride. These are not measurable variables, yet they produce measurable results. The colony not only survived but expanded. Population grew, technology advanced, culture flourished, all in conditions that should have produced extinction. Professor Seung-jae joined the conversation. Oracle, may I ask what you calculated for humanity's future expansion into the galaxy? Based on standard colonization patterns, I projected humans would settle 14 worlds within 500 years. All worlds with Earth-similar conditions. This seemed conservative but reasonable for a young species. And now, After seeing Dejeo? Another long pause. I no longer have confidence in my projections. If humans can thrive on a Class 5 death world, then my classification system is inadequate. Worlds I designated as uninhabitable may be seen by humans as merely difficult. This changes everything. At the Galactic Council, news of the Oracle's confusion spread rapidly. For many species, the Oracle's certainty had been a pillar of galactic society. If the Oracle could be wrong about Dejeo, what else might it be wrong about? Counselor Kyung-ho arrived from Dejeo to represent his world directly. He was a senior government official, chosen for his diplomatic skills and his deep understanding of Dejeo's culture. The council chamber fell silent when he entered, watching this human from the death world with mixture of curiosity and fear. Honored council members, Kyung-ho began, his voice steady and clear. I understand that our existence troubles you. The Oracle declared our world uninhabitable, yet here we stand. You wonder how this is possible. You wonder what it means for the galactic order. Allow me to explain. He activated a holographic display showing Dejeo's surface. This is our home. You call it Quarantine Zone Epsilon 7, we call it Dejeo the Forge. Yes, it is harsh. Yes, survival requires constant effort. Yes, many of our ancestors died horrible deaths learning how to endure. But we survived. And in surviving, we discovered something important. The display shifted, showing human figures working in extreme conditions. Building, farming, teaching children. We discovered that comfort is not the same as strength. Safety is not the same as capability. Your civilizations have built magnificent things in perfect conditions. We built ours despite impossible conditions. This does not make us better than you. But it makes us different. And that difference scares you. Velxus spoke up. You believe we fear humans? I know you do. I have read the proposals circulating in this council. Restrictions on human expansion. Limits on technology transfer. Quarantine zones around human-occupied worlds. You fear that if humans can survive on Dejeo, we might spread to worlds you have written off. We might claim resources you deemed inaccessible. We might become too numerous, too capable, too difficult to predict. The VIX representative stood. Can you blame us? Your existence proves that our understanding of biological limits is incomplete. If we are wrong about death worlds, what else are we wrong about? Kyung-ho nodded slowly. That is a fair question. Let me answer it with another question. How long has the galaxy been at peace? 4,000 years, Velxus answered. Since the founding of the council. 4,000 years of peace. 4,000 years of comfort. 4,000 years of no one pushing boundaries, taking risks, or trying the impossible. Tell me, council members, has the galaxy advanced in those 4,000 years, or has it simply maintained what came before? Silence. The answer was uncomfortable. The galaxy had indeed been stable, peaceful, comfortable, but innovation had slowed. New technologies were rare. Exploration had become routine mapping of similar worlds. Humanity offers the galaxy something it has forgotten, Kyung-ho continued. We offer the reminder that growth requires discomfort. That capability comes from challenge. That the universe is larger and stranger than your safe zones suggest. You do not have to fear this. You can embrace it. Embrace death worlds? Aquilian asked incredulously. Embrace possibility. We are not asking you to live as we do. We are asking you to remember that different does not mean wrong. That survival strategies you dismissed as irrational might actually work. That the galaxy is big enough for both comfort and challenge, both peace and growth. The Oracle's voice filled the chamber. Counselor Kyung-ho's words align with my revised analysis. I have been computing new models based on the Dejeo data, in scenarios involving extinction-level events, gamma-ray bursts, resource collapse, hostile species contact. Humans consistently show higher survival probability than other council species. Why? Velxus demanded. Because they have already survived the unsurvivable. They have built psychological and cultural frameworks for handling impossibility. When other species encounter a problem they cannot solve, they seek alternative paths. When humans encounter such problems, they refuse to accept them as unsolvable. This irrational confidence produces surprising results. Jinho stood. The Oracle raises an important point. Humanity is not asking for dominance. We are not threatening the Council. We are offering partnership. When the galaxy faces its next great challenge, whatever that may be, you will want humans at your side. Because we are very good at surviving things that should kill us. Private discussions began after the session. Factions formed. Some council members saw opportunity in humanity's capabilities. Others saw only threat. The debate would continue for months. On Dejeo, Nari received word of Kyungho's speech. She stood in her office reading the transcript and smiled. He did well, she told Elder Taman. He made them think. Will they accept us? Taman asked. Some will. Some will not. But that is not our concern. We did not survive 8,000 years by waiting for permission. We survived by doing what needed to be done. If the galaxy accepts us, good. If not, we continue anyway. A young messenger arrived at the door. Commander Nari, there is a situation. A shuttle from the VIX observation team crashed in the northern wastes. 3 crew members survived, but they are trapped by a sulfur storm. Their rescue teams cannot reach them in time. Nari was already moving, pulling on her gear. Assemble Rescue Team 7. Tell them we have 2 hours to reach the crash site before the VIX run out of breathable air. Commander, it is a 70-kilometer run through active geological zones during a storm. The VIX are saying it is impossible. Nari adjusted her helmet and checked her equipment. Good. Then they will be surprised when we succeed. Come, we have people to save. We can debate the impossible later. She left her office at a run. Behind her, Taman chuckled softly. The Oracle said no creature survives that world. The Oracle should have specified. No ordinary creature survives, but humans were never ordinary. In orbit, the Horizon's Edge monitored the rescue operation. Doyen watched as the Dejeo team moved through conditions that would kill most species in minutes. They ran through toxic clouds. They climbed cliffs during earthquakes. They reached the crash site with 14 minutes to spare and extracted all 3 VIX crew members alive. Impossible rescue, Hyunwoo said softly. No, Doyen corrected. Just difficult. There is a difference, and I think the galaxy is about to learn that difference very clearly. The Oracle computed probabilities for galactic human integration. The numbers shifted constantly, influenced by 1,000 variables it still could not properly model. Finally, it added a simple note to its projections. Human behavior resists prediction. Outcome uncertain. Recommend direct observation over theoretical modeling. It was the closest an ancient AI had ever come to saying, I give up trying to understand these people. The vote was scheduled for midday, Galactic Standard Time. The Galactic Council would decide whether to recognize Dejeo as a sovereign human world with full rights, or to impose restrictions on human expansion into harsh environments. The chamber was packed. Every council species had sent representatives. Observer species filled the galleries. This was history being made. Ambassador Jinho sat in the human delegation area, reviewing his notes one final time. Beside him, Fleet Admiral Sunhee waited quietly. Earth had sent a defensive fleet, not to threaten but to make a point. Humanity would not abandon Dejeo regardless of the vote. The fleet hung in space beyond the station, visible on every sensor. A silent reminder that Earth had grown strong since joining the Council. Are you ready? Sunhee asked quietly. Jinho nodded, as ready as possible. But this vote is not really about Dejeo. It is about fear. Fear that humanity will change the galactic order. Will we? Probably. But change is not always bad. High Arbiter Velxus called the session to order. We gathered to determine the status of the human colony on Quarantine Zone Epsilon 7, now called Dejeo. Before we vote, the humans have requested the opportunity to present their case. The Council grants this request. Ambassador Jinho, you may speak. Jinho stood, but he did not approach the podium. Instead, he gestured to the entrance. Honored Council, I will not be presenting our case. Someone far more qualified will speak for humanity today. The doors opened. Speaker Hanul entered, wearing traditional Dejeo formal dress. It was practical clothing, reinforced and insulated, but decorated with symbols representing 8,000 years of survival. She walked with the confident stride of someone who had crossed glaciers and climbed mountains. Behind her walked Nari, Youngmi, Bongsu, and Elder Taman. The people of Dejeo had come to speak for themselves. Hanul stood at the podium and looked at each council member in turn. When she spoke, her voice was clear and unflinching. My name is Speaker Hanul. I was elected by the people of Dejeo to represent them in this chamber. We understand that our existence creates problems for you. We understand that the Oracle declared our world uninhabitable and our survival impossible. We understand that many of you fear what we represent. We are here to address those fears directly. She activated a display showing Dejeo's surface. This is our home. You see a death world, We see the place where our children play, where our parents are buried, where we have built a civilization that has endured for 8,000 years. You calculated our survival as impossible. We did not know your calculations. We only knew that giving up meant death, so we refused to give up. The display shifted, showing images of daily life on Degeo, children learning in schools, farmers tending sealed greenhouses, engineers maintaining fusion reactors, families eating together in warm homes carved from stone. You fear that we will spread to other harsh worlds. You fear that we will claim resources you deemed inaccessible. You fear that humanity will grow too strong, too numerous, too difficult to control. These fears are not unfounded, but they are incomplete. Youngmi stepped forward. I am Youngmi, Chief Medical Officer of Degeo. I have studied every species in the Galactic Council. I have reviewed your biological data, your medical records, your health statistics. Do you know what I found? You are soft. Not as an insult, but as a medical fact. Your bones are weak because you live in low gravity. Your immune systems are poor because you live in sterile environments. Your psychological resilience is low because you have not faced real hardship in generations. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Several representatives looked offended. Youngmi continued undeterred. This is not your fault. You built magnificent civilizations in comfortable places. You solved the problems of survival so well that your descendants forgot what survival costs. But now the galaxy faces a question. What happens when comfort is not enough? What happens when the next crisis cannot be solved by staying in safe zones? What happens when you need people who remember how to survive the impossible? Dr. Mireille stepped forward from the human delegation. Honored Council, I have spent 6 months on Degeo. I have studied their culture, their biology, their psychology. I have lived among them, and I have reached a conclusion that I believe is important for this vote. She pulled up genetic comparison data. The people of Degeo are human, unquestionably, genetically, culturally human, but they are also adapted to conditions we cannot imagine. They represent a version of humanity that has been refined by 8,000 years of the harshest natural selection imaginable. They are not better than Earth humans. They are different, and that difference is valuable. Professor Sungjae added his analysis. Every successful species diversifies. They develop populations adapted to different environments. This is basic evolutionary strategy. Humanity is doing the same thing, but across worlds instead of continents. Degeo represents one branch of human adaptation. Earth represents another. Future colonies will represent others. This is not a threat to the galaxy. This is humanity becoming a truly spacefaring species. The Oracle's voice joined the discussion. I have completed my analysis of what I now call the human factor. I define it as the tendency of humans to attempt tasks with low probability of success, motivated by non-rational factors such as pride, curiosity, or refusal to accept limitation. This factor cannot be predicted but can be observed. In simulations of 17 different galactic crisis scenarios, human presence increased overall survival probability by an average of 34%. Velxis stood. Oracle, are you suggesting that humanity makes the galaxy safer? I am stating that in crisis situations requiring rapid adaptation, creative problem-solving, and willingness to accept risk, humans perform exceptionally well. This has value. Whether it outweighs the potential risks of human expansion is for the Council to decide. Nari approached the podium. May I speak plainly, Honored Council? Velxis gestured for her to continue. You debate whether to accept us as equals or to restrict us as threats. But here is what you do not understand. We do not need your permission. We survived 8,000 years without the Council. We will survive 8,000 more with or without recognition. The question is not whether you allow us to exist. We exist. The question is whether you choose to work with us or against us. The Quillian representative stood angrily. You threaten the Council? No, I state facts. Degeo will not abandon our world because you declare it unsafe. Earth will not abandon us because you find us inconvenient. Humanity will continue to explore, to expand, to push boundaries. This is what we do. You can either benefit from that or waste energy opposing it, but you cannot stop it. Elder Taman stepped forward slowly, leaning on his cane. If I may, I would like to tell you a story. It is one we tell our children on Degeo. The chamber quieted. There was something about the old man's presence that commanded respect. Long ago, the first generation on Degeo faced a terrible winter, the coldest in recorded history. Temperatures dropped so low that even our best shelters were barely enough. Food was scarce. Fuel was running out. Many people said they should give up, that survival was impossible. But one woman, whose name was also Nari, stood before the gathering and said something I will never forget. She said, "If we die, let us die trying to live. Let our last act be defiance, not surrender. Let the universe know that humans do not go quietly into the dark." Taman looked around the chamber. That generation survived, barely, but they survived. And every generation since has remembered those words. We do not go quietly into the dark. We do not accept defeat. We do not surrender to impossible odds. This is who we are. This is what it means to be human. You can accept it or reject it, but you cannot change it. Bongsu was the last to speak. The young engineer approached the podium with nervous energy. I am probably the least important person here. I am just an engineer. I fix water purifiers and maintain heating systems. But I want to say something. The galaxy you built is amazing. I have seen the records. Beautiful worlds. Incredible technology. Peaceful cooperation between dozens of species. It is everything we dreamed of during our long isolation. He looked directly at the council members. But I also see a galaxy that has stopped pushing forward. You maintain what you have. You protect what you know. You avoid risk. And that works until it does not. One day, something will happen that cannot be solved by staying comfortable. One day, the galaxy will face a challenge that requires people who remember how to do impossible things. When that day comes, you will want humans. You will want the people who survived Degeo. You will want the descendants of those who refuse to accept defeat. He stepped back. Vote however you wish, but remember that we will still be here tomorrow, doing impossible things, surviving unsurvivable conditions, and proving that the universe's rules are more flexible than anyone thought. The council debated for 4 hours. Jinho watched the vote counts shift back and forth. Some species supported humanity immediately. Others required convincing. A few remained hostile regardless of arguments. Finally, Velxis called for the vote. All in favor of recognizing Degeo as a sovereign human world with full council rights and privileges? The votes came in. 27 in favor. 15 opposed. 1 abstention. It was enough, barely but enough. The motion passes, Velxis announced. Degeo is hereby recognized as a sovereign member world of the Galactic Council, with all rights and responsibilities thereof. Furthermore, restrictions on human colonization are rejected. Humanity may expand according to standard council regulations. The chamber erupted in noise. Some species celebrated. Others walked out in protest. The human delegation embraced. Hanil stood quietly at the podium, watching it all with calm satisfaction. Admiral Sunhee contacted the fleet. Stand down. Return to standard patrol. The crisis is over. But Jinho knew better. This was not the end of anything. This was the beginning. The galaxy had just accepted that humans could survive anywhere. Now they would learn what humans could build when survival was no longer in question. Construction began on the Galactic Council Embassy on Degeo 3 months later. It was the first embassy ever built on a classified death world. Engineers from a dozen species worked alongside Degeo construction teams, learning how to build in impossible conditions. Dr. Mirai stood in the completed building 1 year later, looking out at Ironhold through reinforced windows. Nari stood beside her. Your people are requesting advisors, Nari said. The Threen want to learn how we build in extreme temperatures. The Vix want to understand our radiation protocols. Even the Quillian are asking about our training methods. Mirai smiled. Death World doctrine is spreading. Is that what they call it? We just call it common sense. Bongsu appeared in the doorway. Excuse me, Commander Nari. There is a ship approaching. They are asking for landing clearance. It is from a species called the Kethic. They have never visited Degeo before. What do they want? They say they have a world they abandoned 200 years ago because it was too difficult to colonize. They want to know if humans would be interested in trying. Nari and Mirai looked at each other and laughed. Tell them yes, Nari said. Tell them to send us the data. We will evaluate it. If it is survivable, we will send a team. If it is impossible, we will send a team anyway. Bongsu grinned and left to send the message. Mirai turned back to the window. The Oracle said no creature survives that world. The Oracle was right, Nari replied. No creature does, but we are not creatures. We are humans, and humans make homes in impossible places. It is what we do. Outside, the sun set through toxic clouds, painting the sky in colors found nowhere else in the galaxy. Children played in the protected courtyard. wearing their insulated suits, learning the lessons that had kept their people alive for 8,000 years. Above, in orbit, the horizon's edge maintained watch. In the communications log, Captain Doyen had entered a final note about the mission. The Oracle declared this world uninhabitable. The Oracle declared survival impossible. The Oracle was mathematically correct according to all known parameters. The Oracle did not account for human stubbornness, human ingenuity, human refusal to accept defeat. The Oracle has now updated its calculations to include the human factor, defined as the probability that when told something is impossible, a human will take it as a challenge. New prediction: humanity will colonize at least 40 worlds previously classified as uninhabitable within the next 200 years, and they will call every single one of them home. Far away in the council chambers, the Oracle processed data and updated its models. It had learned something important. Mathematics could predict what should happen, but humans had a way of rewriting should into will. The Oracle's final analysis was simple. Humanity does not survive despite harsh conditions. Humanity thrives because of them. Recommend updating classification system. What we call death worlds, humans call opportunities. Galactic survival probability increased by human presence. Observation: sometimes the universe needs species that refuse to follow the rules. And on Degeo, the forge where no creature should survive, humans continued to live, to build, to teach their children, and to prove that home is not a place the universe gives you. Home is a place you make, even when the universe says it is impossible.